Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host for this show where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our SpotOn Series. SpotOn has the best-in-class platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called SpotOn Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from larger chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom and pop restaurants. To learn more, go to SpotOn.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses to get ROI, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through Done For You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25media.com or email us at support@rise25media.com. Seth Bassett is a franchise owner of Buffalo Wings and Rings. He opened his first franchise around 3 years ago, pre-pandemic, and has opened a new restaurant location each year since. Seth, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Great. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Hey, so tell me about Buffalo Wings and Rings and what a customer can expect when they go there.
So Buffalo Wings and Rings is obviously a wing restaurant, but they provide a more elevated experience to the customer. A lot of wing restaurants are known to be a little more quick service, casual, and Buffalo Wings and Rings really caters to the families and tries to provide more top tier experience, where some establishments are more for, getting everyone right in the middle and more catered towards the heavy drinkers, and Buffalo Wings and Rings is a little more catered towards the family experience.
Okay. What led you to invest in your first franchise in 2019?
So I actually grew up kind of going to the establishment that we ended up purchasing. So I went there throughout college, a little bit before college, and loved the food, loved the service, loved the product, and ended up getting in restaurants further down the line. Moved out of the town that this one exists in, moved out, went to college, or from a 2-year university to 4-year university. Started working in restaurants and worked through restaurants for about 5 years. Decided we wanted to stay in restaurants and we want to move back home. So we started looking at different options. Obviously, I didn't want to be a server for the rest of my life. I didn't really want to manage someone else's restaurant for the rest of my life. So I started looking at, what if we buy something? And I remember, I'm like, what about that wing spot? Why are there not more of them? And that was a great spot. I would love to get, involved in one of their franchises. And that caused me to reach out to try to figure out how much does it cost to build one. And I remember when I was eating there one day, they had in their menu, they had a call about franchise options. You could get your very own franchise for $30,000. $30,000? I could do that. So I called. Well, $30,000 was the fee to get in, not the cost of building a business, obviously, because building business is way more expensive. And I had no chance of building my own restaurant. But when we started talking to the people about where would you like to put yours? I'm like, well, back in my hometown where I grew up, somewhere close by there. Like, funny thing is, the lady's actually selling her franchise. And it's way easier to get a loan on an existing business than it is on trying to buy a brand new business. So that started the ball rolling. Like, well, hey, what if I buy this one that I used to go to for my, throughout early college and everything? And that got the ball rolling, where about a year later, we were actually now the new franchise owners of the existing business.
Wow. So you mentioned that you had prior restaurant experience. What did that look like?
Yeah. So started working at a few different places as a busser, takeout, and then really landed a solid long-term position with BJ's Brewhouse, just serving mostly. And my wife actually was serving at BJ's as well. She's actually the one that got me the job there because we were dating at that time. And she moved up into restaurant management at BJ's Brewhouse. So both of us were working at BJ's. She was about 6 years. I was about 5 years that we put in time to that restaurant. I was just serving the entire time because I had no desire to move up into management based on pay and availability of, what I had time to do. or more scheduling wise, and she had more of the desire to stay in restaurants long term, which is why she got into management.
Okay. So you ended up purchasing a Wings and Rings that was already kind of in business. Would you say that kind of gave you an advantage, maybe with a lack of prior management experience?
I had prior management experience in some other opportunities, and I actually purchased it with my wife. So it was both me and her were the only restaurant, were the only managers at this place. So it was always either her or me at Wings and Rings. There was a lot of management stuff that I gained through BJ's, even though I wasn't managing. For 5 years, I could see what they did on a daily basis, watch how they react to stuff, but it still was a very different beast when you're doing it yourself. So it was a steep learning curve for me. She had a little bit better grasp on it because she'd been managing for, I believe, 2 years prior to that, 2 or 3 years. But that was my first dabble into restaurant management.
So what were the early days like? I know the place was already in operation, but what were the early days like kind of under your leadership?
You could not pay me enough to redo that first year. It was one of the greatest experiences to have been gained, but the amount of work and effort and struggle to kind of figure out, it was fantastic and rough all at the same time. And looking at how far we've come has been impressive. So that first year, we took over business that it was been trending downwards in the more recent years. So there's a lot that we had to kind of improve and work on and fix. And I think the toughest part was taking over the team because they were used to doing things one way, and we had a lot of corporate background where we wanted things done a different way. And a lot of them didn't have a lot of training when we took over like we expected. So that's more of where the growing pains was the lack of training and the expectation of coming from a place like BJ's that was very well trained and very well managed by every aspect to going into a franchise that maybe wasn't not because the franchise's fault, but due to, it trending downward that needed a lot of help to kind of recover. Really, one of the best things that started happening was when we started trading out those employees for new employees that we were able to train from the ground up. That's when we started doing a lot better service, better quality. And that's a lot of the struggles that we dealt with when we first started out.
Sure. Did you, when you guys first started, did you have a vision that you would have multiple, multiple locations, or were you just trying to make the best of that?
We did. So we kind of have a unique experience. Buffalo Wings and Rings is a fantastic franchise. But the unique experience on ours is when we got into this franchise, my initial plan, so it took about a year for us to close the loan. And my goal was to build like 20 of these things. These things are great. This food is great. There's no others in California. It turns out there is one, but so far south, you wouldn't be able to find it from where we're located. I was like, why isn't there one of these in every town rather than our competitors? So that was my initial plan. Now, halfway through the process, Wings and Rings decided they didn't want to be in California anymore, but they knew the old owner, you don't have a business to sell if you can't sell those Wings and Rings. And they knew we needed the franchise backing to even be able to buy a business. So for the betterment of everyone, they decided to sign a franchise agreement with us. But they will not re-sign another one after 10 years. So they are giving us the option to find a good time to exit along these 10 years. They don't want us to go 10 years and kick us out, but we have to find a good time to exit. Mm-hmm. So that kind of shifted gears to, okay, well, if we can't continue with this franchise, I know we want to do more things. We just didn't know what they were going to be at the time. So rather than kind of cookie cutter it out, the other stuff that we've gotten into has been a little bit more, individually built rather than, franchise, the cookie cutter method.
So right now you have 3 Wings and Rings locations. Is that right?
No, we only have the one Wings and Rings location.
Okay.
And then we have another American. Yeah. Two other different establishments, but just the one Wings and Rings.
Okay. How did COVID affect you guys at Wings and Rings?
So we were very fortunate to where wings are cemented as great takeout food. But still the first couple months were really, really rough. So the first months we were going through, we did higher volume takeout than a lot of restaurants because a lot of restaurants, they only do 5% of their 5 to 10% normally in takeout. Our normal takeout average at our location is about 30% of our sales, 30 to 40%. So we do a lot of takeout already. So shifting over to just doing takeout only was doable and easy for us because we'd already been doing so much takeout. Granted, our volume still dropped by about 60%. So we were just trying to break even without alcohol sales or dine-in. Our whole goal was just to break even. So the first few months were rough until we could start doing outdoor dining. And then we started doing outdoor dining. They gave us, obviously we had a tent like everyone else. We can fit, 8 tables inside. But people would start calling us and be like, hey, we every other place is full because every other place only has 6 to 8 tables. Do you guys have room? I'm like, I'll throw another table outside. It could be in the parking lot. It could be wherever. If you want to sit here and eat, I'm not going to say no to you. So we actually started doing heavier volume outdoors than we've ever done inside, to the point where we had to buy extra folding tables and chairs. And we were throwing them all up and down the sidewalk throughout the parking lot, just seating as many people as we can. And our volume actually took off because we're the only restaurant that had seating. Everywhere else had a 2-hour wait if you wanted to go out because their seating was so limited. Mm-hmm. And we were just fortunate that next door to us is a dentist that closes at 5. So there was no one that had any problem with it. We're kind of in a freestanding building. So we actually, fortunately, in the later half of COVID, were able to kind of make up those numbers for where we struggled in the early half.
Nice. Very nice. So you mentioned you had some other franchises that you're now involved in besides Wings and Rings. Do you want to talk about what those are?
Well, they're not franchises with the other involvement. They're other growth that, like I said, are more individually built that aren't franchises. So sure. We're involved in another. During COVID, I met a business partner, and we ended up buying a bar together. And we more recently just bought another barbecue American style restaurant that's been cemented in kind of our town for a while. So we just kind of took it over to remodel, revamp that one. And now we're in the process of building a brand new restaurant, hopefully by the beginning of next year. So we're growing, just not necessarily on the franchise side. A lot of the other side has just been, we've done a really good job at picking up businesses that have been downtrending for a while and turning them around and turning them into gold. And then this next year is our first opportunity at building something that's brand new for the first time.
What did you learn from your Wings and Rings experience in terms of taking over that business and kind of turning it around that you can apply to these other ones?
We learned a ton because, it's almost like starting with training wheels and being able to just kind of release the training wheels. We learned just everything on the business side of it. I think was more of the stronger part because obviously we came from BJ's, and BJ's has great training, great programs in terms of how to, do ordering, purchasing, stuff like that. But when we got to the business side, we've never done that side of it. So owning your own franchise on the business portion of it, we've been able to see, you pay your franchise fee and it's a certain percentage, but a lot of that percentage is washed out on the amount of deals and discounts you get by the franchise having great, significant purchasing power. So some of the stuff that we've been able to learn from them and work out with them, we've been able to bring over to the other restaurants and bars as well, because having that increased purchasing power and learning how to, we're making deals with McCain or whoever it is, and getting better deals than what's normally on the market. It's just taught us really that business side of it. And there's, in the franchise, there's a whole group of people that are dedicated to serving us when it comes to the business side. So if I have HR issues, I can go to them. If I have purchasing issues, these issues, those issues, I have a direct person involved with each of those. And that's been able to kind of help me find out where to go to solve these problems. Where we had the restaurant side, we know how to run the restaurant, do that side, but we didn't know the business side of it.
What are you most excited about in terms of, you said you're kind of just starting your own place. What are you most excited about regarding that?
I'm most excited that we don't have to rebuild the base, that we can come in, build it how we want it. Like a lot of the places we've gone in, we've come in and we're looking at the equipment. It's like, we've got to replace that. We've got to replace that. Okay, this isn't working. We can go in and build it from scratch, how we want it. And as they're coming, they know that we're the ones that built it rather than, the newest place we just bought, it was a rough first 3 or 4 months trying to kind of rebuild that base and tell people, hey, there's new people here. We've got a newer menu. We're changing things and having people come out to try us again. When we first bought Wings and Rings, that was a struggle as well, because it honestly took the entire first year to really get people to come out and try us again. There's some people that liked it, but there's a lot of people that didn't like it due to, previous ownership and things that happened. That trying to rebuild that base and get people to give you another chance in restaurants is really a struggle. So that's kind of the part I'm excited about, where everything that we build is our own, including the mistakes, the problems and issues that they also have with our new restaurant is all on us as
Sure.
well. But it's now our mistake rather than fixing, someone else's mistakes.
I have one final question for you, but first, how can people find out more about your Wings and Rings location and any of the other locations that you have working right now?
So Wings and Rings, like I said, they're a fantastic franchise. If you have anyone nearby, I highly recommend to go out there. If you're in the Midwest, that's where most of them are located. So when I say they don't want to be California anywhere, there's 2 in California. The next closest one is until Texas or Ohio. So if you're anywhere out in Texas, Ohio, North Carolina, I highly recommend you try them out. Or if you're near us, try it out before we end up, debranding in a couple of years, whenever that happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find out more about those online. Any of my our other places are all in Modesto, California. So if you're anywhere nearby, check us out. Any of the spots, we've got the Twisted Pig, new restaurant, which we don't have a name for, but we'll figure that out, and Low Key Saloon Bar. But yeah, anywhere close to Wings Rings, absolutely try it out if you like wings.
Okay, sounds good. Hey, my final question, when you go to Wings and Rings, maybe as a customer, what would be kind of your meal of choice?
Boneless wings. So typically you go for bone-in wings. Bone-in wings are kind of somewhat the same anywhere you go. Ours are all fresh. They're never frozen. So they're typically bigger, juicier, but they're boneless wings. They're hand breaded to order. They're not these frozen nuggets, really bready that you get at some other places. But they're all fresh. We bread them to order, throw them in the fryer. They're bigger, fatter, juicier than everything. Even if you don't like boneless wings, give them a try. That and their blue cheese. Their blue cheese is homemade as well. Best things on the menu.
All right, sounds good. I'm hungry. Hey, Seth, thanks so much for your time today. It's been great to talk to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.